We are continuing our series here this morning. Could I just come down a little bit in the fold back, please? Our series, What's Wrong With You? Who's enjoying that so far? And hopefully you'll still be enjoying it after this little moment of self-reflection, I think is what we're going to call this message here this morning. And what's wrong with you is the theme that we've got. And often you all know people who kind of like, well, there's nothing wrong with me, everyone else is the problem, right? It's all gone a bit quiet. Oh, maybe we've got a few of them in here. All right, okay. And then there's other people. It's like, oh, it's me. Everything's wrong. I'm hopeless. I'm no good. It's like, and sometimes you kind of swing between the two. What we want to do is just get a healthy level of self-awareness and of where we know that who we are. We're confident. We love God and we love the person that He's called us to be. But we're aware of some of our limitations. We're working at them. Who knows that the gospel is a message of hope for transformation, to be transformed, to grow and to increase, become more like Jesus, and we can shake off some of those things that are holding us back. So the aim with this series is to actually give us all some practical tools to help us in our relationships. Practical tools that'll help us in our relationships. We got a whole bunch of those over the last couple of weeks. We love what Pastor Shaun shared with us last week. And if you missed out on it, you just go to our website or go to our YouTube channel. You can watch the video or listen to the audio through the website. And so some great practical advice regarding these things. I want to kind of look at it from a slightly different angle here this morning. About the things that can really ruin relationships. And, obviously there's things that can ruin relationships in a moment, like cheating, unfaithfulness, acts of violence. It's just like, man, in one moment, this whole thing just went belly up. But in the same way, relationships can be white-anted over a long period of time by a culmination of lots of little things. So there's big things that can end a relationship or cause huge problems in relationship. But there's also little things over a long period of time that have the same effect. And I think in life it's the big things that get our attention the most. And we kind of tend to sweep under the carpet the little things. But the reality is that the little things can do just as much damage as the big things. Because you end up with the same result at the end of the day. A great white shark, if you go swimming down in South Australia, it can get you in one bite. But if you go swimming in the Amazon, a school of piranhas can get you with thousands of little bites. Same end result. One's just one big act, the other one's just lots of little ones. And the same thing happens with our relationships. It can be one big thing, or it can be thousands of little things. And this message here today, what I want to talk about is those thousands of little things. And I'm going to number them 1 right through to 1,000. So I hope you got your pen. No, I'm just joking. I hope you've got your pen ready. Imagine you went to the doctors this week and they said, look, we need to sit you down and share some news with you. Fortunately, we've found some cancer in your body. And you said to them, oh, how bad is it? And they're like, oh, it's not big, it's only little. And you're like, oh, sweet. No worries. As long as it's only little, that's fine. Maybe when it gets big, then I'll start to worry about it. Now, you're not going to react like that because that's not how cancer works. But it's the same with our relationships. Sometimes there's little cancers, little things that we just think, oh, we'll worry about that if it becomes a big thing. But we know from the medical world, we know from what's happened to loved ones in our life that little things don't always stay little. And there is cancer in relationships that can come in that we need to deal with when things are little. And so this is why I want to make you aware this morning that we're going to be looking at the little things, and I'm telling you that the little things are just as important as the big things. Imagine if we had the same approach to the cancers in our relationships that we had to a cancer that we found out about in our own body. Quick, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's change everything. Let's sort this out. Imagine if we approached our marriage like that. Imagine if we approached relationships in general like that. The goal is not to make one person right and the other person wrong. The goal is to bring healing and wholeness to the relationship. Galatians 5 verse 9. A little yeast works through the whole batch of dough. One little speck of yeast will work through the whole batch of dough. This is a principle of life. So why do we overlook little things when they can actually spread through and corrupt the whole thing? I think we underestimate the power that little things have for both for good and for evil in our relationships. But I'm talking about the negative little things here this morning. It's like the little thing, it's not a big deal. It's just a little thing. Or I'm not perfect, so of course there's going to be little things that I do wrong. And so we've got to be careful we're not just justifying poor behaviour by pointing to our imperfection. Of course we're not perfect. But Jesus calls us to become more and more like him. So when we're aware of these little things, we should actually be working to actually eliminate them from our life. In particular, we can gloss over too easily the little things that we personally bring into the relationship. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because straight away when I talk about the little things in a relationship, most of us start thinking about the other person in the relationship and all the little things that they bring, right? There's a few honest people here. Okay, for a moment, I'm going to invite you to join me. We're going to take a walk into the Hall of Mirrors. And we're going to have a good, long look at ourselves here this morning and look at the little things that we bring into the relationship. Not the person maybe who's sitting next to you, not the person who is in the relationships that you've got in your world right now. I want you to look at yourself. Who's coming with me this morning into the Hall of Mirrors? Okay, I've got a few people brave enough to come. Okay, these are the rules before we go. As you're looking at yourself, not pointing the finger at the other person. Here's the thing, without the mirror, there's a whole lot of things you'll never know. You ever gone and stood in the mirror at a function or a party and you look at your face or you go, oh my goodness, how long's that thing been there? It's like, without the mirror, you'd never know. Everyone else can see it. It's the same. All right, Song of Songs 2:15. Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards. Our vineyards that are in bloom. Catch for us the foxes that ruin the vineyards. Now, this is going to be my main text this morning, this scripture right here. We're going to dig into this verse right now. And just a spoiler alert from the beginning, there's no foxes and there's no vineyard. This is an allegory. This is a picture of a relationship. This is the context of what this is talking about. And the writer of this, Solomon, who was the wisest man who ever lived, he's wise enough to know that sometimes you just got to use pictures and allegories to help people figure out what's going on. He could have written, let's eliminate the things, the little things that ruin our relationship that has so much goodness to give. That's what he could have written. But instead he wrote, let's catch the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyard. Because it gives you a picture of how serious these little things actually can be. Everyone loves a vineyard, especially after harvest and after it's sat in those barrels for a little while. What a shame to lose it all because of some little foxes. Well, the same is true with your relationships. There's so much goodness to come in the future of these relationships if only you will deal with the little foxes right now. The little foxes that you're putting up with in your own life, that you bring your bad habits, your little things, and we're going to dig into what some of them are. The longer you put up with that, the less benefit in the future of what your relationship can actually bring. The quality of the fine wine that's in the days to come of your relationship. So if it's marriage, let's get specific. Let's eliminate the things, the little things that take the love out of our marriage. The place where love is meant to flourish. I'm just rewriting that that verse. There's an application for family. Let's deal with the little things that cause problems between members of our family. That spoils the atmosphere in our home. There's application for friendships. Let's get rid of the little things that niggle and annoy each other so that we can really enjoy and enrich our friendship. Let's catch the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards. What's wrong with you? You've got foxes. No, don't do that. See, husbands, you can actually turn to your wife and say, you are a fox. I'll let you do that. I'll let you do that. Just put some money in the bank for later on, all right? We've all got foxes. We've all got little foxes. Don't for a moment think that you don't. It's just a matter of how aware you are of them and how you are managing that. Some people are well along the way here. They know the foxes. They've maybe learnt the hard way and they've learnt how to control and manage and all that sort of stuff in the relationships that you're in. Other people have no idea. Completely oblivious, blown from one relationship to the other, bouncing in and out without understanding that there's little foxes at work in your life. Today, we're going fox hunting. We're going on a fox hunt. We're going to catch a... No, we're not. We're going to catch a little one. We're going on a fox hunt. We're going to catch a little one today. Every relationship has the foxes that hamper the relationship, and tragically, if left to run riot through the vineyard, will ruin it. Little foxes. I want to break it down into 3 broad categories for us this morning. And like I say, there's thousands of little foxes or piranhas. But let's just look at a few here this morning to get us started. I'm sure you can come up with your own list. And I encourage you to come up with your own list for the benefit of all those around you at some point, maybe not right now, but maybe a little later on, just in a moment of reflection, pray and ask God in the spirit of all of this. It's like, hey God, show me. Just get your highlighter pen out and show me some little foxes in my life that I can go hunting, that I can go after. How good is that? Guys, like we're hunters by nature, right? A lot of us, we want to get out there and catch things and hunt things and take things down. Well, instead of training your guns on everything out there, why don't we just turn around, once again, come into the Hall of Mirrors, have a look in our own backyard and say, you know what, there's probably some things I can go hunting after in my own heart that's actually going to do a lot more good to everybody else if I can do that. Okay, so the first one is little fox thoughts. It begins with a thought. Little fox thoughts that you have relating to your relationships. The first one here might be unrealistic, unspoken expectations. Unrealistic and unspoken expectations. You've got all these thoughts in your head of how the other person in this relationship should be acting, should be behaving, things they should be doing, things they should be saying. But the problem is, number one, they're completely unrealistic. And number two, you've never even mentioned it. So how's this other person ever meant to know? It's like, well, my dad, he used to act like this around the place, so my husband should be doing all of those things. Well, maybe that person's example was completely different. They've got no idea what your expectation is. And it might be completely unrealistic to expect that they would do that. At the very least, it's unspoken. So they're never going to fulfill it. And the problem is that these thoughts, they're not going to, all they do is create hostility. All they do is like angst within the relationship. It's like, oh, why didn't you? It's like some friends, like even at a friendship level, it's like, why am I always the one that has to initiate every conversation? You never call me, I always call you. You never pay for anything, I'll buy. It's like, all these expectations but the thing is, you never actually say it, you just think it. And this is the problem, is the thoughts that you have in your head. I'm telling you, maybe for the sake of the relationship, maybe just stop thinking those things. Maybe just stop thinking. Not stop thinking, but Stop those thoughts that are the little foxes that this person can never live up to. What's the future? It's only going to get worse and worse for you if you don't let it go. It's gone very quiet in here all of a sudden. It's going to get quieter. That's okay. I'm okay with that. The next category of thoughts is doubts. Here's a classic one for marriage. Have I married the wrong person? Don't raise your hand if that thought ever entered your mind. I tell you what, I'm sure after a bad enough day, that thought's probably entered most minds. The problem is, what do you do with that thought? Do you shake it off and just... Because, reality is, you got the ring on the finger, you've married the right person. Barring the catastrophic great white shark attacks that I alluded to at the start. But I'm telling you, you've got to work everything out. And so it's not good enough just to say, I married the wrong person. I've spoken to people who 12 years ago decided they married the wrong person and stayed married for 12 years and now wondering why the relationship's a train wreck. It's because there's doubt in your mind. You let it land. It's like a seed that you've let land in the soil of your heart, and it's grown, and now it's bearing all the fruit that it was always going to. It just took 12 years to happen. You've just got to stop those thoughts in their tracks. The doubts that you have in the relationship, I tell you, that's a little fox that's just going to ruin any future that this relationship can have. Jealousies, thoughts of jealousy that can come. Problem with all of these things, short thoughts lead to actions. And if you've got thoughts in your mind of jealousy in the relationship, that's going to manifest in controlling behavior. And that's just going to push people away. And so if jealousy is a thing for you, in the thought, that is a little fox that is going to ruin the vineyard of every relationship that you can ever have. And the reality is, no one just wakes up and gets jealous because of no reason. You're jealous because of a legitimate reason, of your past experiences. But it's not good enough to stay there. You actually need to get healed of that. It's a cancer. Jealousy in your heart that you bring, it's actually a cancer that needs to be healed. Not just, that's just the way I am, deal with it. Well, you know where that's going to end. So, how to catch the little fox thoughts. And once again, you know what the thoughts are that go through your head regarding your relationships. You know the thought that you're tempted to go to, the filter, I think Megan was talking about, the filters that we see things through. You know what they are by now. How to catch the little fox thoughts. This scripture, oh my goodness, is that the time? Okay. 2 Corinthians 10:5 in the NIV. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought. Take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Okay, this thought that I've got, is this a Christ-like thought? Is this the type of thought that Jesus is going to be happy with me having? And you can categorize it, yes or no. And if it's no, then you take it captive and say, you know what, I'm not dwelling on you anymore. I'm going to put you in jail, in a dungeon, sentenced to transportation, out of my life forever. All right? Take it captive. Because here's the problem. If you don't captivate your thoughts captivate you. And then, you know where that ends up. Nip it in the bud. Small things matter. Don't think that these small thoughts don't matter. Consciously take control of them. Grab hold of them and take them down. Let's write the Song of Songs scripture regarding thoughts, little foxes. Stop thinking the thoughts, the little thoughts that jeopardize the fullness of our relationship. Stop thinking the thoughts, the little thoughts that jeopardize your relationships. That's the first one. The second one, little fox words. Little fox words. First one here, sniping. Those little words, you just can't help it. Just Proverbs 12:18 says this: there is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise promotes health. Some of you, you're like a world champion. Your words are like the piercings of a sword, and you think, you know what, you're pretty proud of yourself for that. Problem is, you read the second half of that, it says, but the tongue of the wise. Notice there's a contrast. You might think you're good, but you're a fool if you do that. Contrast. It's a contrast between that person, the expert swordsman, and the wise person. So when it comes to words, you don't want to be an expert swordsman. You want to be the tongue of the wise that promotes health. You could say, there is one who speaks like sowing seeds of cancer, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. There is life and death in the tongue. James tells us in the New Testament. So words out of the mouth can be like thrustings of the sword. So I love it says there is one. There's probably more than one. But maybe in every relationship there's one. Is it you? If you're not sure who it is, maybe it is you. That's always a good life principle. If you're not sure who the problem is, it's probably you. Write it down. Good news is you can become wise and use your words to bring healing. You can become wise. And Proverbs is written so that we can become wise, and when you start adopting the things that it says in there, let's become wise. Use your words to heal rather than to harm. You don't stop saying, oh, it's just the way I am. No, it's not. Well, change who you are. You can. You've got the power to change. Jesus has given us that. It's the freedom that we've been set free for. It's the freedom to change and to grow. We just make excuses. All right. Have to come to the next services to hear the other ones. I'm out of time. I am. Okay, here's how you do it. I'll skip a few, but I'll come back to the bottom line here, is how do you do it? How do you catch those little foxes of the tongue? Here's a good one that Nicky Gumbel, the guy who does Alpha, he wrote this. He says, before you, I'm not sure whether he invented it or not, or got it from somewhere else. Before you speak, think. And it's T, is it true? Before you say something, ask yourself this. T, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? K, is it kind? Just run a filter over your words before you speak them. Is it true? Is it helpful? You can see I do this all the time. Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Imagine if you ran that filter over the things that you said this morning before you left the house. Wow, it's really quiet in here now. Okay. If you actually run your words through that filter, it will work. It takes discipline and control. Let's rewrite the Song of Songs phrase for words. Stop speaking the words, the little words that hurt our relationship. Stop speaking the words, the little words that hurt your relationships. You, not the other person, no elbows in the ribs right now. You, your little foxes, your little words, your little thoughts, your little words. Point 3 is the little fox habits. And you can see where I'm going with this. Stop doing the habits that actually are hurting your relationship. Oh, it's not a sin. But if it's a habit that's a little fox, it might just be your BO that's just really annoying the other person. Well, it's not a sin. It's just too... No. Well, if it's a little fox in the relationship, just fix it. Start using some BO basher. Take a pommy shower. It's not that hard. Especially up here. We all get the stink on pretty quickly, can't we? So personal hygiene. It could be something as simple as that. It's just a habit that's just so annoying. Brush your teeth. Little habits. Keeping score. Not accepting any share of the blame. It's always somebody else. Little habit. You just go to, it's your default. You just get so defensive. I could go on and on and on. And some of you wish I would, just hoping I'd say something that's just going to land on the person next to you. Maybe I will in the next services, you never know. Stop doing the things, the little things that are harming our relationship. Stop doing them. How do I stop? Stop. When I was back in Sydney, before we were pastors, I was working at the C3 college. I was the dean of students, and I'd kind of help students with stuff. And one of these girls came in, and one of the policies that we had for students, if you were enrolled in Bible college, is that you weren't allowed to smoke, and you had to give up smoking. And she came in, and she's enrolled, and she's accepted, and we're into term 1, and she kind of lied on the form, and it's like, do you smoke? Like, no. And then anyway, she's starting to feel a bit guilty about it. And she comes in and says, oh, I've got this, I'm smoking, but I want to stop. I think I need to stop it. I'm like,